My name is Pekka Jokelainen. I am based at Statens Serum Institute, Denmark, and I have myself been involved in One Health EJP from the start. I'm part of the project management team, and I have been involved in many different roles. And today it's my great pleasure to moderate this high-level roundtable where we have invited colleagues who have been involved in One Health EJP or following it from quite different roles, actually. And the aim of today's discussion is to really look into the lessons learned from this unique, large, European, collaborative One Health initiative. And I would say one thing we have learned is this hybrid working. So this is a side effect, I would say. But really, if you look at the speaker list and also when you hear these comments, there are many ways to be involved in One Health collaborations. And I really hope that today's discussion will be inspiring. And that was the word used actually in the opening speech yesterday for the whole One 2022 event. That's gathering together, this should be inspiring. So from this unique experience of One Health EJP, let's see what we will learn today. I will, you can see the panelist participants listed, and I will actually just give a floor to each of them one by one. We have some of them here with us in Brussels and some are online. I would first give the floor to Hein Imprets, who is the scientific coordinator of One Health EJP. So the experience of coordinating this huge consortium, how is it? What have we learned?
Okay. So thank you very much, Pekka. Hello, everybody in the room here and online as well. So my name is Hein Imberrechts, and I'm working at Sensano here in Brussels. That's the Belgian Institute for Health, together with Arnaud Calegari from ANSES in Paris, France. We are coordinating this One Health EJP. This is a 5 years project on the Horizon 2020, and it will run until September next year, 2023. And we are working in the domains of foodborne zoonosis, antimicrobial resistance, and emerging threats. It aims at, as Pekka says, bringing people together, researchers and scientists from public institutions, and to strengthen, the idea is to strengthen the collaboration between these institutes in these different areas. That's the reason, and because how can you do that? How can you create this cohesion between these institutes? That is by creating opportunities for research and integrative projects, and also what we call education and training activities. That's like PhDs, and we will hear about that later, but also summer schools and workshops. For the moment, we are a European consortium consisting of 44 partners from 22 countries, mostly animal health, public health institutions, and institutions that are involved as well in food microbiology, I would say. All our activities that we do are linked to the process of prevention, detection, response, or you could say prevention or preparedness. Although this consortium consists mainly of what I said, med and vet laboratories, the activities really follow the One Health approach. And to this end, to have a One Health approach and to have these, all the areas of prevention and preparedness covered, then what are the areas where work has to be done, and what are we doing? That's in the area of surveillance systems, because they have to be set up, and then the laboratory procedures and the reference material are needed to do the work in the lab and create results. And then there is risk assessment methodologies and interpretation of surveillance data, and to recognize alerts. signals that have to be sent to the relevant partners, and afterwards it is action in the field that has to be taken care of. And so all of these steps have to be taken in the fields of animal health, food safety, and also public health, meaning this is really work that has to be done across sectors in a multidisciplinary approach, and this is One Health at work. All projects within the One Health EGP, they deliver results that fit into this process of prevention, detection, response, and therefore they add to the preparedness of these actors. And in that way, we think that the One Health EGP is a good example of practical examples how cross-sector and cross-border work should work. And these are, for us, examples of One Health collaboration. And overall, we bring together almost 800 researchers and technical experts across Europe through these 24 research projects, 30 no, that's not true. A lot of activities and also 17 PhDs. But also through these summer schools and the newsletters and the workshops, we even have a global outreach. So that's interesting to mention. All our work that we do is based on the strategic research agenda that was built with relevant actors in the field, but also with important input from ECDC and EFSA. And the project leaders, some of whom we will hear today, they deliver these outputs. And now what we have to do is make sure that these outcomes will be taken up by national stakeholders and also European and international bodies. And we are very proud to have these excellent contacts, with these international bodies. And so this is a major, I would say, achievement of this EGP. Just to finish up, I would say what we want to do is not just doing research, but we also want to go beyond that. We want to create impact at the level of science, society, but also economy and policy. All speakers of today, they will contribute to this strategy and add practical value, we think, to the One Health approach. And so I hope that you will enjoy the talks. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Hein. I have an immediate question to you, and that is practically organizing this kind of consortium with 44 partners across Europe and from different fields, and mainly also working with both the scientists in different groups. So would you do it again, or what is your advice if somebody wants to take a similar large coordination work?
Well, I want to use a word that has been used yesterday a few times. I think you have to create start with a small consortium and with people in which you have trust. If there is trust, then you can take decisions very much faster than when you have to look for agreement and for collaborations. If you know that you can trust, you can rely on somebody. If I can rely on you, I know that you will do the job if I ask you something, and so on. So I think this is important. We have, and therefore, and it's good that you asked this question, therefore I think that this consortium that we have, although it is just a project, it is also as well a unique consortium network in Europe that the people are almost friends, so that the trust is there, at least for a large number of people. And so this is a very good basis to build upon for a next partnership. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good comments indeed. It's been a few times said within the consortium that we are a little bit like a family. We know each other quite well already. And one thing is that in this kind of large project, there's like smaller groups, and sometimes that is where the future collaborations also then starts. And that's actually, I think we will jump next to Nadia Boysen, who is here with us also physically. So you are one of the project leaders. So indeed, in One Health EJP, there's been 2 calls for projects, research projects, and integrative projects. And you are a project leader of one of these integrative projects. So how has it been for you to join this One Health journey?
Yes, hello everyone, hello online. So my name is Nadia Boysen, like Pika. I work at State and Serum Institute. And I'm the project lead of the project called One Health Harmony CAP. And we essentially try and harmonize laboratory protocols across the sectors, which is in itself challenging because essentially there's always challenges and you have to be able to adapt because microbiology is a very challenging field. But it is important to have these harmonized protocols in order to make sure that the different sectors, they sort of speak the same language, and that's important for surveillance and important for outbreak detection. And clearly, it's always beneficial to work multi-sectional sectional because you learn a lot about what they do in the different fields, and you try and sort of figure out the challenges together. And then, as Hein and you also touch upon, you get a lot of great coworkers, and yeah. So it's been really good.
Collaborators.
Yeah.
One thing about this Harmonica project is also that it has a selection of like example pathogens where there's the focus, and there it's also kind of a breaking silos attitude that there is mainly bacteria, but also parasites are included. So how about that work? That's been also...
So obviously, so we have a few parasites and a few pathogens, and then you can really deep dive into that. And one of the main outputs that we have is sort of a ranking protocol where we have scored how to do the laboratory procedures for these model organisms. And that's something that can be picked up by maybe the stakeholders and others, where if you implementing a new protocol, which is very normal, then you can see how does it hold up to your previous protocol, what are the criteria, and sort of take it from there. So that is just one of our few outputs.
Indeed, and already what Hein was also mentioning, so there's a lot of outputs from all these projects, and one focus actually, because of that, in the One Health EJP has been all the time keeping contact with our stakeholders, because we really want these to be taken up. And there's a specific thing in One Health EJP is that all the partner institutes, they have mandate from their national ministries to do this work. So at the national level, there is this link. And then from the beginning, we have been keeping really nice, good contact with key stakeholders. So we have, as mentioned, ECDC and EFSA are the key European stakeholders, as we say, but also the other sister agencies and also the global organizations in the field of One Health. And many of the panelists today are actually representing that group. And just to go to this hybrid mode, I think we will jump next to the online participants. And at the same time, I would like to say to the audience that all the time ask questions. There is actually one question immediately to Nadia. Let's take that first. There's a question that how would you rate the willingness to find compromises across sectors if you think about methods? That's a good question.
It's a really good question. So when we started the work, the first thing is that researchers are saying, well, it's impossible to harmonize the methods because obviously the materials are different depending on if you're, and that is true. So what we try to do is harmonize the characterization and the typing. So the output of and the results of the laboratory protocol, that's what will be harmonized, and not essentially the input of the laboratory of the work, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Thank you. I would like to give the floor or the screen next to Peter Hoysko from WHO Euro. You have joined our stakeholder committee kind of midway the One Health EJP, so already some time following us, and how is it from your side? What are the experiences of this collaboration? Please.
Yeah, thanks, Pekka, and thanks for inviting me to participate in this side event. It's a great pleasure, and it has been a very, very interesting collaboration that we have had with the One Health EGP. We have learned a lot, and I think the work of the group has really linked well into the work that we are doing in WHO and with our UN partners, the so-called quadripartite. I mean, One Health is really a strong priority for WHO in the European region, and it's in line with the Pan-European Commission on Health and Sustainable Development. I know if some of you might be familiar with it. We also call it the Monti Commission. And the report that it was launched last year, it's a call for action to rethink policy priorities in light of pandemics. And the report really puts operationalizing the concept of One Health as the number one priority and recommendation for countries to really take action on this. So in light of this report, and also in light of the collaboration we have had with partners, I mentioned the quadripartite, but also the One Health EGP, we have initiated a number of activities where we would also like to see the collaboration with the One Health EGP moving forward. And that would be to develop a regional operational plan of action for One Health for the European region for endorsement by the WHO Regional Committee in 2024. We will also be establishing a technical advisory group to provide this more strategic guidance and technical advice to WHO on how we best support countries and what countries need to do to better operationalize One Health into their policy frameworks. And we have plans of organizing also an interministerial meeting during the second half of 2023. So together with our, especially the quadripartite partners, but also beyond, we have really moved forward over the past couple of years. And that has been really to strengthen this One Health governance structure. The One Health regional quadripartite One Health coordination mechanism, which consists of the four organizations, WHO, the former OIE, now WOHA, and UN, EP, and WHO. We have established this mechanism last year to really help us coordinate among ourselves to better be able to support the countries in moving forward with the One Health agenda. And we have identified these common priorities, and we coordinate our efforts to better support the countries and maximize our impact at the country level. We work, of course, in various different areas, including AMR, food safety, control of zoonotic diseases, but also in the more broader health emergencies, preparedness and response. And the work of the quadripartite is not really limited just to the four organizations themselves, but also beyond. We have established a partner platform, and I know One Health EGP has been or is a member of the partner platform and participated in the dialogue meeting we had last year. And it reaches out to other organizations, consortia, stakeholders, to be better in coordinating among ourselves, kind of coordinating the supply side to meet the needs of the demand side from the member states. So we really look forward to continue this collaboration with a broad number of stakeholders to be really better in operationalizing and supporting the countries in operationalizing the One Health approach. So I'll end it here. Back to you, Pekka, and happy to take any questions there might be.
Thank you so much, Peter. Indeed, a nice example also how One Health is very timely now. It's at different levels, and that's how much focus the quadripartite has it right now. So I think it's been beneficial for One Health EJP, and also nice to be useful and have these outcomes and support that way these higher level and more international initiatives all the time. But indeed, One Health EJP is a European project, so focus is on Europe, and already mentioned, we from the start have been working a lot with EFSA and ECDC, so these two have been our kind of key players in this with us, I would say totally as a collaborative thing. And I'm very, very happy that we have here physically next to me Steph Bronschwau from EFSA. You have been actually, I think you commented on last stakeholder committee meeting that you are one of those who you have been from the start involved as a stakeholder and following the whole process, giving inputs to the strategic research agenda, giving feedback to the projects and really following it on many ways. And I'm very happy to have you here. And what would you like to bring to the table from your side?
Thank you, Pika. Pleasure to be here. Well, I would like to compliment the One Health EGP for all the progress made. And I would like to state on this occasion that actually we have the One Health EGP at an EFSA conference, that we really are brothers in arms. We are really actually fighting the same fight. So it's funny, actually, if you also look at our logos of the One Health EGP, you can see a little bit on the screen there, and the EFSA logo, they're very much alike. Maybe a coincidence, maybe not. Actually, One Health is in EFSA's remit. It's actually written down in our mandate, which was formulated already 20 years ago. We have it in our mission statement that we, as EFSA, shall contribute to a high level of protection of human life and health, and in this respect, take account of animal health and welfare, plant health, and the environment. So it's a really broad One Health definition. So we feel very much linked to the cause, like you. These days we hear about European partnerships as a kind of a follow-up of what you already started as a European joint program. And there I think is a challenge because probably many of you know that there's no One Health partnership. And instead One Health should be addressed in a number of different partnerships, like the animal health and welfare one, like the AMR one. This is actually similar to food safety. We have general food law, but we don't have necessarily a common one food policy at EU level. And also, I believe in many of the member states, that's not yet the case. So that means that cooperation is key. And we've heard that word a lot. And I think we discuss a lot these days that we need One Health, which is obvious. I think we still all struggle a bit to translate that on what it means practically. And there I think a lot of lessons can be learned from the One Health EGP, because you have delivered over these past 4 years a lot of tools, a lot of methods, and beautifully made available to the public, so it's accessible by everybody. And that I think will help also in us, EFSA, ECDC, but also the very many different stakeholders to take up from there and to translate that into practice. And I'm happy, actually, I think it's very timely, you coming to an end now as a project. We, EFSA, being asked recently by the Commission, we received a mandate, as we call it, to actually design a coordinated surveillance in animals and the environment on cross-border zoonotic pathogens. And obviously, in doing that, we are aware already, but we are mapping actually, and there's my colleague here, Andrea, mapping what is happening already on coordinated surveillance out there. And definitely we will look carefully at the EGP outputs, and we are familiar with a number of them. So we'll be happy to use those as good as we can.
Thank you. This is also very important, building forward from here. Exactly. And this is actually a challenge that was already mentioned earlier, that's now after this One Health EGP, there is no similar structure, so it becomes maybe a little bit more scattered. However, in many, many contexts, One Health is mentioned. And I mean, you have a brilliant overview of all these opportunities for funding in One Health. What is your advice to others, like how to keep track of One Health in the coming years? Because in a way, One Health EGP has been serving this nicely in one package now.
Yeah. No silver bullets, I'm afraid. It's a bit like, again, food safety. If you look at the research programs, food safety is not so prominent there. But actually, if you take a different pair of glasses, you see that it's linked to everything. So I think it's pretty similar to One Health. You can read it into a lot of things. Specifically, 2 calls come to mind for the EU for Health program, which since the COVID has had a dramatic increase. Luckily, they, I think, have more than 6 billion euros for the coming period. There's 2 large calls for the member states coming out, I believe, in the coming quarters, in this year, during this year, to support One Health surveillance actively.
That is true, and I mean, I've also noticed that there's also mention in those call texts to link across different projects, and that's very nice that that's then the way to keep connected. I would actually like to go back to Peter, because how about from your side, from WHO, how challenging is it to follow these EU projects, because they are quite complex usually, and what is your strategy for the future?
I mean, they are complex and they can be challenging to follow. I think there's a lot of stakeholders. I think in this particular case, it has been quite easy because we have had specific focal points for the different activities. So with you, Pika, but also with Anna Maria and others, that has been our entry point to the work of the One Health EGP. But of course, One Health is complex, and I think others have mentioned as well. I mean, working together takes time and it makes things more complex, but it also makes us go a little further as opposed to working on our own. So I think that comes with all multi-sectoral work, that it requires an additional effort, and it is hard sometimes, and sometimes we wonder, would it be easier if we just did it ourselves? But I think the lesson learned over the years is that no, we don't, because we don't go as far and we don't go as effective if we go on our own. So it's hard to overcome the complexity, and maybe we shouldn't. That's the beauty of the One Health approach, all in all, I think.
Thank you. So indeed, doing things together in the end, it is a strength. It takes a bit more, but then it works. And this is maybe really important at this point also to have those contact points. I think this is also back to what Hein said earlier, that building trust and knowing those other people, that's easier than to collaborate also between projects and stakeholders. But I think we should go next to our other key stakeholders, so ECDC, and we have Ole Hoyer here presenting ECDC. And how about from your side, what is the experience of One Health collaboration and following a project like One Health EJP?
Thank you, and thank you very much for also having ECDC in this side event. I will stay just as Steph within the European setting, and I would say that if we look across the scene, I mean, there is a lot going on One Health in Europe, and you may even get the impression that the European institutions, because I think the question here that we were supposed to answer was the institutionalized One Health work. You may even get the impression that the institutions are standing a little bit back, and it's left with all the lucky receivers of the quite large grants that are or money that flows to the One Health work and to the health work at large. And this is good, of course. That fosters a lot of collaboration, as we have also seen with this project and with the Horizon 2020, how collaboration between agencies and institutions emerge from these tasks that are solved there. For the EU institutions, I mean, traditionally it was mainly EFSA and ECDC that were in charge of the One Health activities. For ECDC's part, we do not have the One Health mentioned so specifically in our mandate as EFSA has, but we are and have for many years been collaborating closely with EFSA. Looking at the whole One Health perspective from an overall angle, you may wonder how it appears that there was never a creation of a EU zoonosis center. If we look back in history, we will see that many of the member states, as they through the years realized that there was this need for a cross collaboration between the various sectors at national level, they did create zoonosis center or centers or similar institutions that would take care of this. And in some cases, these were referred to as a center without walls. Back then, the collaboration was to some extent fueled by the concern for transfer of antimicrobial resistance to animals and humans. And I think one of the strongest examples where we see that research actually led to political action came out of that, namely the discontinuation of the use of antimicrobial growth promoters in animals and the effect that had on the total consumption of antimicrobials. So this is the work on the antimicrobial resistance still remains an important component, and we also see that in the collaboration between EFSA, ECDC, and EMA, for instance, on the JACRA, the joint integrated analysis of data from consumption and resistance in both animals and humans, and actually reflects what was already going on several years before, and still are in many of the member states. I wouldn't say that the One Health has gotten between the chairs, but we can maybe already see, as it has been mentioned earlier, that it's a difficult topic. It doesn't have like a well fundamented seat like the human health and the animal health. And this is our challenge, to reach across and collaborate in the best way. I think for both EFSA and ECDC, so far we collaborated very well, but we still haven't really, to the extent needed, managed to stretch out our hands to the environmental agency in Copenhagen and have them join so that we also have the environment well embedded in the One Health approach. And I think that is one of the next things that is our responsibility to do, to complete this collaboration and have the last EU institution also on board. Yeah, I think the objectives to be defined for how the EU institutions should work on One Health, they depend on many things. Partly the parts that are already in place, for instance, for EFSA, but we also need to look at what WHO is doing, what the tripartite is doing, and find the niche so that we avoid overlapping activities and that we complete the picture, work on all the aspects in a coordinated way. And I think the advice and the experiences that now comes out of this the EJP project are useful for this assessment and for this planning of this work. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Very important points, because indeed it's, I would say to this that from our side, a lesson learned has been also to have all these different stakeholder organizations gathered together and from us to learn what are the mandates, what are the focus points, but also across, I think there's been several discussions, for example, especially with the EA and EMA that are also in the stakeholder committee, and like how is it, where are the points where we can work together. And sometimes it's the structures that seem to be against that, sometimes the structures are supporting that, but I think the general will is there clearly. That's really nice. Do you, Steph, have something to add to?
No, not really. I think it's fair to remember that, in fact, environment was not initially embedded in AGP, so it's a logical next step. I think it's part of the challenge. Actually, I come out of the sustainability session this morning. I thought One Health was complex, but sustainability assessment is maybe even more. So certainly not an excuse not to do anything. The other thing I picked up from this conference, what we learned yesterday, is that the Commission is setting up a One Health AMR directorate, which is, I think, definitely something laudable, a step in the good direction. Again, will not solve everything, as she acknowledged herself, but it's an interesting development. Thanks.
Thank you. One more kind of integrative thing is that, as mentioned in One Health EJP, there are 44 partner institutes. And we have here Thomas Mettenleider from FLI, Germany, who is, FLI is one of the partner institutes, and you are also representing the One Health high-level expert panel. So would you like to join the discussion? Any points from those point of views, please?
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, as One Health high-level expert panel, we are a rather new kid on the block. We exist for a little more than 1 year, but I think we already had made some impact, and I think the major impact in the last couple of months was definitely the new definition of One Health that was issued by the One Health high-level expert panel and supported by the quadripartite. And this basically then summarizes some of the aspects that we already discussed in the past couple of minutes. And I mean, just to read the first sentence, it says One Health is an integrated, unifying approach that aims to sustainably balance and optimize the health of people, animals, and ecosystems. And it has already been said, I mean, there is a development in this One Health EJP, having its foundation, its core, I would say, in the previous MedVetNet, which was a network of excellence that was then expanded to this 44-member One Health EJP. And the second point, I think it's important, the One Health EJP is a pre-pandemic EJP. So basically, it was created and it placed its emphasis before we were actually hit by SARS-CoV-2. And this is a history that is reflected in the current situation in this One Health EJP. As One Health high-level expert panel, I mean, one of the tasks and one of the terms of references that we have is to look for implementation of One Health. I mean, we can talk about One Health at length as long as it remains theoretical. I don't think we have the impact that it actually deserves. And this is a major issue, and this is something that the One Health EJP has actually taken on board. And I'm happy that we will have or do have best practice examples in the framework of this One Health EJP that we can use as a blueprint, and also saying this is what we actually mean as One Health. And One zoonotic infections. One Health is integrating a lot more. And in particular, the environmental aspect. It's explainable from the development of this One Health EJP that it originated from the cooperation of the human and the animal side. But I think we have to strengthen the involvement of the environmental side so that they actually feature as equal partners. And if we talk about the continuation, if we talk about sustainability, this is for us an absolutely major and essential issue to go beyond an approach that would more correctly be termed One Medicine, so bringing human and animal health together, into something which is then true One Health. And this is a challenge. I understand that very well, but I think it's a challenge that we need to take on board because, I mean, if we really take One Health seriously, for example, in terms of preparedness, in terms of prevention, I mean, we won't really make much progress without this third partner. This has internationally been formalized by the formal establishment of the quadripartite. It has already been mentioned sometimes, so that the 4 global organizations that actually play important roles in this aspect now work together. So it's a global issue, but of course, implementation is pretty much at a regional, national, or even local level. So what we are talking today is the European regional level, but it's also very important that we go down to the local level here as well. And this also entails the establishment of national, regional One Health strategies. Actually, where do we want to go? Where do we want to be in 3 years, 5 years from now? And this is something that has essentially to do with this sustainability. So I hope that One Health will not be diluted in these all different partnerships, but rather strengthened, because this concept will appear in several of these partnerships in the future, hopefully as well. So we look forward to have sustainability in One Health. And I mean, one of the in the definition of One Health, sustainability plays a major role. It's not something which is over at a certain period of time. And my final word is One Health is definitely no longer a concept. One Health is a way of living. And this is something I think we should all realize. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very nice take-home message. One Health is a way of living. And I think this definition by the One Health high-level expert panel was really warmly welcomed, because that has been a challenge, that there's been kind of people have been using a lot of time to try to make sure we talk about the same thing, and also how the environment and actually how things are interconnected is emphasized, and exactly the sustainability aspect. So it's been really useful and well, taken into use already. How was it actually to come to that definition? Will you tell a little bit about that process?
It was a long process and a very intensive process. So basically, we discussed every single word a couple of times. But I mean, I also can say it was a very consensual process, because I think we all agreed that we needed something primarily as a baseline for the work of OLAB. So that within OLAB, within these, 26 members from 24. And we were quite glad then afterwards that the quadripartite actually supported that as well. And it has, and we received quite positive feedback from various groups. So I think, in the end, it was some work, but it was very much worthwhile.
Thank you. Also an example of challenges that can be overcome together, and there's clearly the will to come to a good solution. Next, I would actually like to give the floor or the screen to Ingrid Cardenas-Rey, who is joining online, who is one of the PhD candidates that have been doing PhD projects within the One Health EJP umbrella. Because actually that is one thing from sustainability. We really need to focus on the next generation and the future generations of One Health scientists and collaborators. So Ingrid, would you like to add your inputs to the table, please?
Yes, Vika, thank you. And hi, everyone. So as Vika said, I am a PhD and working in the domain of antimicrobial resistance and the project FIMOGAT, and I am from Wageningen University. I'm pleased to be here and share my experience as a young researcher, as a PhD, but also how I feel working on a multidisciplinary One Health project consortia. So first, I want to say that I feel pretty lucky to be part of this consortia, because it has offered a very solid education and training platform like the doctorate program. So we have had access to workshops, to summer school, short-term missions that, in my experience, the short-term mission has allowed me to maximize and also increase my experience with international and interdisciplinary groups, for instance, in Copenhagen, where I am currently. But also something that I would like to point out about being part of this consortia is that we have, as young researchers, had the opportunity to have visibility in our annual scientific meetings, to exercise communication, science communications. I think it's very important to learn to do science in One Health approach, but it's also just as important to share this knowledge in a good way to the society, to the rest of the people. So I think it's also very important. And another thing I would like to say is that we all know that with the current situation that is happening with the COVID and other pandemics, we know that we have to focus on health and human health, animal health, and also environmental health. So I think we as young researchers are learning and acquiring the skills needed to be a team player, to cooperate, to work as a multidisciplinary research. But I think more projects or more consortia like the One Health EJP should continue over time around the world, because it's beautiful that we have the opportunity here in Europe, but it would be much better that we can do it worldwide. And I think this session, for instance, is very much promising, I think, for other groups to get inspired and motivated.
Thank you. I think this was almost the most important message of today given just now. So really encouraging and nice that there's a positive feeling. How about the communication points? Have you found it challenging to, when you mentioned that you are involved in One Health project and you focus on One Health, is that how is that taken?
Yeah, so what I think is usually when we start a PhD project, we focus too much in a research question. And what I have learned in this consortium is to reach out from different points of view. So yeah, you're not anymore like just narrow in this tunnel, but you start seeing a different point of view. You because what I heard from Peter a while ago, we need to work together. So I know I have knowledge on certain expertise, but that is not going to stop me to move toward answering a research question, because I know I can reach out with other colleagues who probably know, or other institutes who know or have this expertise. So I think we really have to work together and try to solve problems or answer these questions that are always there, but that we cannot do it just by our own. So I think this is a good message that I'm taking from this experience, just to learn to work and as a community of scientists. And I think the One Health EGP had done it pretty well. So for me, it's possible. That's what I can say.
Thank you. That's very nice to hear. Another point actually about kind of continuation of One Health EJP. I mean, this is really important that we have been educating next generation of One Health scientists in this, and certainly this adds to the network and the collaborations. But we have here Arjen van der Kiezen, who is the president of MedVetNet Association. And that's actually an association that has a longer history than One Health EJP, and already mentioned that One Health EJP has 44 partners and all the others are institutes, but MedVetNet Association is actually also one of the partners. And I think this is really important to have this longer history and also to the future. Arjen, would you like to comment on the role of MedVetNet Association on the next steps? Please.
Yes, thank you, Pika. So my name is Arjen van der Kiezen. I'm actually from the National Institute of Public Health in the Netherlands, but also president of the association. Well, a lot has already been said, but I want to underline that it's crucial for the prevention, detection and control of zoonosis to have the One Health collaboration in Europe, in the national, European, at the global level. I also agree that the One Health EGP project plays a very important role in this. The One Health EGP has extended the European One Health network and gives a huge boost to One Health collaboration in Europe. And indeed, the question is how to maintain One Health collaboration in Europe beyond the lifespan of One Health EGP. And well, maybe also the question could be, can the MedVetNet Association play a role in this respect? A few words about the association. It was already mentioned, the origin of the association is the Network of Excellence under the 6th Framework Program of the European Union. And in the MedVetNet project, there was already collaboration between veterinary and public health institutes on prevention and control of zoonosis. And at the end of the project, the network was maintained as a self-sustained association. And it was indeed already the MedVetNet Association that actually developed the One Health EGP program. So the association is, like One Health EGP, an integrated European network of public and academic institutions with reference functions in the medical public health and the food veterinary domains. It's a bit smaller than the One Health EGP network. It comprises 21 members from 14 European countries. The goals of the strategic goals of the association are quite similar to that of One Health EGP. We also aim to foster One Health research and to encourage integration of expertise and harmonization of methodologies, also with the greater aim to contribute to the joint EU capacity to prevent, detect and respond to emerging threats. Now, if you have a look at the future of One Health in Europe, indeed we all recognize the need for a One Health approach. But it was already mentioned, several initiatives at the moment are under development, like the European partnership programs. And indeed, some of them include a One Health component, like the partnerships on One Health animal health and welfare, I should say, One Health AMR, pandemic preparedness, but it was already mentioned, there is no specific One Health partnership. So the VetNet Association may take a role and serve as an interface between these partnerships, consolidating the One Health network built by One Health EGP and pursuing One Health collaboration across these European partnerships. That would be one ambition. Also, the association may adopt some activities developed by One Health EGP to stimulate and implement cross-sectoral collaboration within EU countries. For instance, by using the roadmap to developing a One Health risk analysis structure within member states developed by the One Health EGP project Cohesive. For in some countries, the One Health approach has clearly been embraced and broadly implemented, but in other countries, still many steps have to be taken. So hopefully the VetNet Association can play a role here and can continue some of the work and activities done by One Health EGP. I think I will stop here and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Arjen. I think this is a nice example of what Hein was saying in the beginning, again, like this building trust and having a smaller group first and building from there, and how from that a large European project can then emerge. There's a related question from the audience. Anybody can answer who has this is a challenging question. So the approach of One Health EJP in terms of benefits of cross-sectoral collaborations, there's a comment that it could be taken more close to health emergency preparedness and response, so the HERA that is now also a major player in the field. And there's a comment that both food and health are important critical infrastructures which are interconnected and interdependent with many other things. So how to address these kind of large challenges in a very, very multidisciplinary environment? So any comments to this side? It goes even larger. One Health is already complex, but health and food are related to so many larger challenges too. Steph, please.
One reflection that comes to my mind is the importance of One Health. It's not only about transdisciplinary science, so that different scientific disciplines come together. It's also about different tiers, different levels coming together. And that is, I think, a challenge that we face also in Europe, where we have actually a relatively limited mandate at EU level, because in the treaties, the public health responsibilities of Europe are rather limited, as opposed to, for example, the food sector, where there's rather invasive legislation in place that member states need to adhere to. And somehow we managed to operate this, and I don't think the solution would be in harmonizing it. I would be interested to hear these views on that, on how to deal with the COVID crisis, for example. But that would be my reflection, is let's not wait until we have it all sorted out, but let's operate at the level where we can. Earlier also the local level was mentioned. I think we need action at all the different levels. That would be as a starter. Thanks.
Thank you. There's a follow-up question actually to the ECDC and EFSA especially, but European agencies. What is the future of collaboration between agencies? Is that one level that is kind of easygoing? And I would say also organizing this one 2022 is a nice example. But yeah, how to maintain input from stakeholders in all the work, but mainly at the European level.
Ole, when you want to come in, just raise your hand. I can start again. Yes, indeed, this conference, I think also Bernard Uhl, our executive director, mentioned it yesterday in the opening, has actually been co-organized with different agencies. I've done one session, tomorrow's session I prepared, and that was a very active participation and thinking with the different chief scientists of the agencies. So that was a very positive experience, I think, because obviously with this conference we aim also to develop the strategy for the future. So it was an important exercise actually to do this together. Another recent exercise that we've done is with the so-called EU ANSA group, which are the agencies that provide scientific advice, something like 13 EU agencies. And there we actually made a report we published in April on lessons learned from the Covit response. And there it was very interesting to learn. Actually, one of the recommendations is that we need a One Health approach also there, obviously. But there was very interesting to actually acknowledge that it was relatively late in the process that we were called together. So immediately, obviously, from the start of the pandemic, certainly ECDC, certainly the Medicines Agency were very actively involved. But the other agencies also started thinking, what can we do? But there was no really central organization from the start for a really transdisciplinary approach, which is something for the future. So one of the recommendations of this report is to invest more in preparedness, so to work together during peacetime to do horizon foresight activities together, so to be prepared better for the future.
Indeed. Ole, would you like to continue?
Yeah, thank you. I would actually try also to reply to the question from Steph from a few minutes ago, where regarding the discrepancy between the legal background for taking action on the animal and food side compared to the human side. And it is indeed true that we saw during the pandemic how the EU institutions are less directive. I mean, the countries have the full authority to manage risk at national level, and this is simply a working condition under which we are under. Of course, it could be tempting then to say, yes, we must have the same authority as on the animal side, but in the absence of that possibility, and I don't know if that's more a political question, if that would be relevant, but I think the real answer from our side is to work even more on prevention, to equip and help the member states to prevent that they get there at all, so that we simply are even better in predicting, even using epidemic intelligence and machine learning to at a very early stage already predict what is going to happen, and better prepare the member states to avoid the severe crisis as we saw. And one of the lessons learned from this pandemic here is definitely that, I mean, everybody was taken by surprise. No one had seen that this would take that dimension. And also during the crisis, time and time again, we were surprised by the direction it took, and were reminded that our ability to predict, to prevent, was not sufficient in this type of crisis. Thank you.
Thank you. Very important points. Peter, you get 30-second further comments.
Okay, thanks. I'll limit myself to 30 seconds then. No, this is just back to your previous question to the audience about this linkage between health and food and the broader aspects of One Health. I mean, one area that we're looking into with a broad range of partners is the sustainable food systems. And I think that's maybe an approach that can be taken to address these broader issues around One Health. So sustainable food systems, and we have established with other UN partners an issue-based coalition on sustainable food systems, where we really take this broader approach to One Health and look at not only environmental sustainability, but also the economic sustainability, look at the whole food chain from production to consumption and how we can make that more sustainable, looking at climate change and all those impacts. So that is a way of working, and another approach which goes a bit beyond One issues. Oh, I think I muted myself in the middle.
Just for a second, no worries.
30 seconds. Yeah, so this is
30
one of
seconds.
that we can be working to address the broader issues around One Health. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Indeed, I think this brings us really back to our original question: what have we learned during One Health EJP, and what should we it's not over yet. The project continues, and all this where we are now. So we are learning all the time. And I would just say, like, to close this roundtable, I would like to thank all the speakers, participants, audience, and very importantly, one question that we all take home is like, what do we actively want to learn? We are here now together at these events, and One Health EJP is continuing. We have all these collaborations at different levels. So let's continue learning. That's the take-home message. Thank you all. Last moment, comments, quick.
I have an invitation to make, very quick. These days we are exploring rightfully what One Health means in practice. I would invite everybody to have a look at the One Health EGP website, because there you will find a lot of answers.
A lot of answers, exactly. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye, thank you.
Bye-bye.